let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm John.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look back at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
We're going to get into the nitty-gritty and examine the good, the bad, the ugly, and the laughable in these movies.
But we're always coming from a place of love. You don't watch these movies as much as we have unless you have a genuine affection for them.
Energy, John.
Well,
you're bringing the energy.
You already gave me booze.
Yeah. What's up, man?
Hey, friend.
We're back at it again.
We are. We can't be stopped.
I am excited because this was a movie that had slipped through my cracks.
Ooh, kinky.
We're going to talk about a littler known Van Damme offering, Cyborg.
Yeah.
When he was on the brink of becoming like the megastar.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to think about this movie being made in 1989, and he'd already done like Bloodsport and some other stuff, and like he was on the verge of the breakout, and something like this, I feel like had it been more commercially embraced, and by that I just mean on people's radar, maybe he wouldn't have been a big star.
Do you think?
Maybe,
yeah, if they had seen this,
they had seen this and
like,
like,
oh boy,
maybe not.
This guy.
Maybe not.
Apparently, he filmed this movie like 2 months before he went off and filmed Kickboxer, and they came out like 2 months apart.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Which is
It's
wild,
crazy to think about Kickboxer being this late, though, like this close to 1990.
Yeah.
Because both these movies feel like they were made in the early 80s, because
the plots and everything.
The plots and just the quality of the filmmaking, because it's canon.
Yes. That's what...
Which we're going to talk about.
You just nailed it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had not really grown up watching this movie. I was just telling you before we started that this was like the one movie I can remember in my lifetime that I was forbidden to watch.
That's so funny to me.
I was sitting at home one day as whatever I would have been, 11-year-old or 12-year-old, watching TBS, and I think it was on, and it was the scene where he's on the crucifix,
right.
And that's the only bit of this movie that I remember at all is that bit. And I think my mom walked in and was like, oh, hell no, you're not watching this. What is this? You're not allowed to watch that movie.
That's so funny to me. I mean, because, I don't know, Last Temptation of Christ was not something that was on, TBS or anything like that.
I don't feel like it was even religious. I just feel like it was everything about it was just so violent and like gory and twisted but not all that much more than other things I was watching.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like
I think it's just mom wasn't looking over my shoulder.
Even watching it now, I mean, it's violent, but it's not like super bloody. And there's a reason.
I feel like they cut around a lot.
Yeah, they did cut around a lot, or Van Damme cut around a lot of it.
Yeah,
you're like, make this movie from X to R, please. So yeah, we're talking about 1989 Cyborg. Directed by Albert Pyun, Hawaii's own.
Yeah, the Hawaiian treat or something.
He's spam. His IMDb says that he is, quote, credited with pioneering the cyborg subgenre. It is considered to be a maverick and renegade in independent genre cinema, which sounds like he wrote that.
I took the same exact note. It reminded me of Seagal's bio on IMDb. It's like, oh, what publicist wrote this? But no, in Pyun's case, I feel like he definitely wrote this himself.
The only other thing on his resume that I recognize was Sword and the Sorcerer from 1982, my birth year.
A Sword and Sorcery movie.
Yeah, it's not an ingenious title.
He also had directed, I saw after this, he did Kickboxer 2 and Kickboxer 4 were his.
Strong.
Yes. I mean, weird though.
And who knows if this is true, but it said that he was attached to, at one point, Total Recall, but Verhoeven obviously ended up directing that.
Interesting. Okay.
I could see this guy directing something like that, totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, he passed away in November of last year.
Oh, shit.
Aged 69 years old.
I didn't catch that.
Gone too soon, yeah. But from Wikipedia, though his films are frequently blended with kickboxing and hybrid martial arts, science fiction, and dystopic and post-apocalyptic themes, which often included cyborgs, Pyun stated that I really have no interest in cyborgs.
What?
And he said, I've never really had any interest in post-apocalyptic stories. It just seems that those situations presented a way for me to make movies with very little money.
Okay.
So, yeah, kudos to him for being adventurous because, yeah, this movie was made for nothing.
Absolutely.
You and I could fund this movie with a bank loan.
And also written by Pion, right?
Yep, he wrote it under the pseudonym Kitty Chalmers.
It's fucking weird.
I feel like that's an allusion to something. That's a reference to something that I didn't bother looking up, but it's like a literary reference or movie reference
too. But he apparently did not want his name down as the writer of this thing.
Right. He apparently wrote and directed a lot of the stuff that he did, like did both double duty. Produced by the legends themselves, Menachem Golem and Yoram Globus. From Canon Films.
I was going through those dudes' lists of credits, and there are hundreds,
Yeah.
And the only movie that those dudes like personally produced that I was good was this one Runaway Train with like John Voight and
that sounds familiar.
Eric Roberts. They're like two inmates who've broken out of prison, and they're on a train that's sort of out of control now. It was actually really good. Both those dudes got nominated for Oscars.
I was about
to
say it was well received critically.
Yeah, and excellent. But that was the only I combed through all 200 titles there might have been of what they produced, and that was the only one that I'm like, that was a good movie. Everything else was like, at best.
Except for Bloodsport.
Yeah, like Cobra and but they didn't hands-on produce.
That's true.
They just just went out under Canon's banner.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got it, and other times you just want to got it.
I think so.
Music by Kevin Bassenson. His IMDb, he's done tons of stuff from film to TV to video game music editing, and the video game shit really comes across in this one.
I feel like for good reason he never did much composing beside this movie.
Well, apparently this was like the second or third soundtrack. That it had a soundtrack that got canned, and then this guy got pulled in like fucking Tangerine Dream.
He's that guy.
And Legend. Yeah, they're like, we need music and we need it fast, but you get what you paid for.
Press some keys on that keyboard over there.
Dude, I mean, if this movie's budget was less than $500,000, this guy probably made $5,000.
They were probably like, here's $5,000. You got one weekend.
Probably.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. Director of photography was Philip Allen Waters. The only thing that jumped out to me from his CV was that he was the cinematographer for a comedy special I love, Eddie Izzard's Dressed to Kill.
Was that the one where he was like in drag, sort of?
Well, he's in drag in all of them, but it's like one of the earlier ones when he was like first breaking out. It's like from the early 2000s in like San Francisco.
Okay.
It's very, very funny.
I expected this dude to have some good credits because I feel like he was really going for it in this movie. Like he thought he was making Blade Runner. You know what I mean? Like he had some chops, and I was like, if nothing else, some of the things are really interestingly lit.
You and I are on the same page with this movie. That was like there's not a lot happening except for some really like ballsy photography choices that look cool. Yeah. The editor was Roxanne Zingale, and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sheldon Lettich had to come in
try to save it
with 2 months to salvage this thing.
Do the same shit happen on Bloodsport?
Mm-hmm.
Where they were like, where I think the Canon guys were like, "Wow, this fucking sucks." That thing sat on the shelf, I want to say, for like 2 years.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then Van Damme was like, "Let me try to re-edit it. Like I want to get famous. I can't get famous if you're not putting my movie out."
Yeah.
Can I try re-editing the combat scenes or whatever?
I mean, if I would love to see. There is apparently a director's cut out there that was released in 2014 in Germany that I would really love to get my hands on, because it's apparently like all in black and white and has extensive like none of Van Damme shit is him talking. It's all VO and it's much hyper violent. So anyway,
that makes a little bit of sense to me. Only because some of the scenes, and we'll talk about it pretty soon once we get into the movie, where I'm like, was that supposed to be like a corpse or a statue or something? Because it doesn't look human, but I think if it was in black and white, you wouldn't be able to tell that the skin was yellow instead of like flesh colored.
Right.
But we'll get to it quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who's in this movie, Kevin?
Starring our guy Jean-Claude Van Damme as Gibson Rickenbacker.
Like one guitar and one like.
Dude,
lots of musical
that was
references.
A lot. I didn't pick up on that until I was reading it, but I was like,
and Rickenbacker's a guitar too. Yeah, Fender's a guitar.
There's one. There was another character who I don't know his name even made it into my notes here, but the dude who was like guiding Pearl early on was Marshall Stratt.
Oh, that's funny.
Another, like,
I wonder if Pyun played guitar. Must have.
And then apparently Natty Simmons, is that?
I think he pronounces it Natty.
Is that like another instrument or instrument maker?
I think that her name is supposed to be, but I'm not sure what was the last name?
I didn't recognize that one. Natty Simmons? Natty Simmons?
Oh, no.
I didn't recognize that one, but I'm like, oh, yeah.
Then Pearl is Pearl Drums.
Yeah, I should have caught on to this earlier, but I did not. But yeah, then we also got Vincent Klenn as the aforementioned Fender.
Fender Tremolo. Which is an effect. Yeah.
And he was, you would know him better probably as Warchild from Point Break.
Fuck yeah.
And a real life professional surfer, I just learned.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that makes sense because he's not a professional actor.
He's just professionally cut up, man.
Dude, he was shredded up.
Dude is fucking jacked to the tits.
What kind of shit was he doing? It must have been a lot of fucking, I don't know what, speed and whatnot. What would get you that, like,
just being in the gym all the time.
But a lot of, like, there was recreational drugs. It had to be, and steroids probably.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the dude is just, in like, not like super big, like, no, but just like cut to shit.
He was like lean.
Yeah. It's it lean muscle. Nuts. He got that lean muscle. Who else is in this movie?
Deborah Richter played the aforementioned Natty Simmons. Natty? How are we saying it?
He said, well, Van Damme, Natty? The one time we hear her name in the movie, he says, Natty!
From what I could tell, this is what she's best known for.
Yeah, lots of TV credits, but always playing like Slutty Girl or Hot Mom or like shit like that. She was
pretty sexy. She grew on me as the movie went along.
Yeah, agreed.
We had Dale Haddon playing Pearl Prophet.
Mm-hmm.
So also what she's best known for. Terry Batson playing Mary.
Uh-huh.
This is what she's best known for.
This was the first thing of note she ever did.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. She had an interesting look as well.
Well, see, and I'll tell you that as a 12 or 11-year-old kid, that when I saw this first, I remember being very, very confused by so much of what was happening, especially because the actress that plays, or the actor that plays Pearl and the actor that plays Mary, they look very similar.
Yes.
And that's why at first we're supposed to, there's like this moment of connection between.
There's a lot of flashbacks that aren't it's hard to tell it's a flashback.
Yeah, but they have a very similar look facially. And I was just like, as a kid, I was like, I'm so confused.
That Terry Batson was beautiful.
Yeah, she was a good looking
lady.
She
had like a fire Instagram account. She was wearing the little hats and everything like that in the movie.
Good call.
And then Haley Peterson played Haley.
The only thing she ever did.
The only credit she ever had.
She was good.
She was fine. She was as good as anybody else in the movie.
That's also true.
But yeah, I would say the movie clearly is like trying to ride the coattails of better movies.
Yeah, I feel like Road Warrior and
for
Mad
sure
Max.
This dude walked in and sold it as this is Blade Runner meets Mad Max.
Yeah.
That has to be what he said, with like a dose of whatever RoboCop and Terminator, like Cyborg shit was hot. And they're like, they probably literally said, okay, but it's got to have a cyborg in it. You know,
he's like, fuck, all right, fine.
I want to do this it's Road Warrior meets Blade Runner. Okay, but you got to put a cyborg in. The name of the movie's got to be Cyborg. Because we own the rights to the title Cyborg.
Apparently, the original movie title was Slinger or something like that,
which would also have been terrible.
Yeah, because no one knows what
even
that is.
Worse. It's like Blade Runner, but if the movie is shit, then no one's gonna bother to. People are just gonna say Slinger. I'm gonna watch that.
What is that?
I hardly know her.
All right, so I guess let's talk about this movie.
Yeah, man.
So we start off with Leo the Lion, the MGM Lion doing his thing.
Right.
Next up is the Canon Films animation.
Nice.
I don't know if we ever talked about it. The Canon logo is kind of cool. We must have talked about it.
When it comes together, you just, in your head, you hear it go clank.
Yeah. It's like the arrow going forwards, like FedEx.
This movie has the distinction of being the very last ever theatrically released Canon movie.
Oh, R.I.P. Yeah. Everything else is direct to VHS.
Everything else was direct to video, or it was maybe released under Canon's banner, but Canon didn't actually oversee the production.
Right. Okay.
They might have just distributed or something like that.
This is their death knell. And
yes.
And what a shitty way to go
out. I know,
out.
dude. Well, you could tell it was that makes a lot of the movie make more sense when you're like, oh, this was a studio on its last legs.
Literally gasping with the ventilator.
What can we throw on screen here that won't cost us anything?
Heartbreak. You know what this movie is also devoid of? Product placement.
Absolutely, it doesn't fit the canon mold.
That's right.
Dude, I feel like that must have been a Stallone thing.
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling like, because Cobra and Over the Top, nothing but product placement.
Right.
But I feel like there must have been something in the contract that said Stallone gets to keep product placement money.
Probably.
Or something, and he's just like, more.
Bigger, deeper. So while we're seeing the Canon logo, we're getting the first notes of Bassinson's score, which you refer to as ominous and cheap sounding.
Ominous wind chimes.
Yeah, definitely it's synthy and 80s sounding, which I like, but it does sound like some like pre-boss music in a video game.
Yes. It was like 8-bit music, right?
Screen fades to black.
Oh, dude, man, when that Golden Globus Productions pops on the screen, like, you're in for some shoddy workmanship.
Oh yeah. Well, everything about the credits rolling, like at the beginning, I was like, this looks terrible. This is all we could afford. Was like, what's the cheapest font you've got? And it's like, it's almost blurry. It's almost illegible. You can't really read it.
It's weird.
Yeah. So screen fades to black and we get a VO. Amazon says it's from Fender, who is the villain, which
Sounds
is weird
right.
to me.
Yes, I
anyway,
agree.
Fender's VO says, first there was a collapse of civilization, anarchy, genocide, starvation. Then when it seemed things couldn't get any worse, we got the plague, the living death, quickly closing its fist over the entire planet. And then we heard the rumors that the last scientists were working on a cure that would end the plague and restore the world. Restore it? Why? I like the death. I like the misery. I like this. Why? And he screams so loud it like distorts the sound, and so they have to like kind of pull back. So yeah, his voice gets more and more excited and just ends with him fucking yelling.
I thought it was a decent little setup, though, as far as like establishing what the world is that we're about to see.
It's kind of neat having someone that's like down with it.
I feel like if it hadn't been Van Damme in the lead, probably would have let the hero do that voiceover. But his voice is just not
fucking. This
can't let him read.
Like, he'd already done movies before where he kind of could talk. And then this feels like watching an Arnold movie where you've seen him talk
Don't
before.
let him talk.
And then it's like, this is one where it's like, oh shit, he forgot. He forgot everything. All the English he knows is right out the window. So as the VO finishes, we get this still shot / painting of New York City, and it looks like it's just collapsed and it's ruined, and some on-screen text lets us know that this is in the future.
That was a terrible map painting.
It sucks.
It was. And what was that little thing crawling around? And there was like it might have been a rat or a cockroach or something. There was just some sort of critter moving around.
Maybe it was actually when they were filming that there was a roach on it. And they're like, move the roach, and they're like, we can't.
But how far into the collapse of civilization do you reckon that this movie is taking place?
Decades.
I would say the same, just from the level of like
how many decades?
ruin?
I would say, like, thinking about like right now, The Last of Us is all the rage on HBO, and for good reason, because the shit's awesome. And in that show / video game, 20 years have elapsed, and so I would say that at least 20 or 30 years have probably elapsed.
I think so too. Because we'll even see in the movie, like, it seems like maybe 8 to 10 years earlier was still a hellscape. Yeah. Right? Even in the flashbacks, it's a hellscape. So I agree with you. I think it's got to be decades because, the infrastructure is all crumbled. Yeah, buildings have been bombed out and gone, and bridges are collapsing and in the water. And so, anyway, we get dropped right into some mayhem. We see this guy burst through a door and out into a street, and it's daylight, and there's shit everywhere, and it looks like the place got bombed out at some point. There's also, and this is something you were just talking about, it to me is like a naked woman's been crucified. Yeah. But it could have been, like, it looks so bad that it could be a dummy, but I think it's supposed to be a body, like a person that got crucified. I think so, too, on second or third viewing. Yeah, at first I was like, it looked like one of those, what do you have on the masthead, like of a ship? Yeah. Like the woman flying on the mast of a ship or whatever, but then there's several of them. If you look in the background, there are other crucified people back there. So all like fully graphically nude. Yeah, it was weird. Also, the fact they went like full daylight and sunny. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a different aesthetic for this. It's Mad Maxy, right? But it's not like Blade Runner and what you normally pick is like dark and stormy. They couldn't pay for lights. I think they filmed this shit in Arizona or something like that. They filmed the entire thing in Wilmington, North Carolina. No, I saw a bunch was in Arizona. Was too. It really? Okay. I think you can almost tell. I feel like they must have built their Canon studios, sound stages or whatever, like in Arizona, probably because it's like good weather all the time. Right. Like, we're gonna make our own little Hollywood here in the middle of the fucking. Oh my God! Desert. Come on, guys. Yeah. Come on. In Arizona.
I mean, they do have no state income tax, so
facts. There was all this. The whole thing was like a tax haven, wasn't it?
So the guy he like whips around and calls to Pearl, who we see as a woman in a red jumpsuit, similar to the one that he's looking, which seems to be like a military getup.
Yeah.
As they run, we see that the guy seems to be favoring a leg.
Yes.
He says that he thinks that they've lost Fender and his pirates, and they've got a chance to reach the Bronx Township, where they're going to try to hire a slinger. So that's a little bit of like just bam, bam, bam. What's a slinger? Bronx Township. What's that? So while he's talking,
all done in ADR, the whole thing, like none of it. You don't even see the characters; they're just running, and you're
just
hearing the
dialogue.
Yeah.
While he's talking, we can hear people like hooping and hollering off camera. The guy immediately stops and tells Pearl to keep going while he tries to hold off whoever's chasing him. So I feel like a bunch of like running got cut because he's immediately like, all right, never mind, you just go.
Yeah. Yes.
Pearl's like unsure, but the guy repeats that she should go find a slinger to help her and, yells to keep going. He grimaces in pain and looks up to see yet another crucified person up on a light pole. While that dude just sits there languishing, we get a shot of one of the bad guys running up, twirling a metal pole or spear or something.
Yeah.
And he's wearing, you think he looks a lot like Anthony Kiedis.
I was just getting that vibes, like a little kind of small, slender dude, but he had that look. Throughout, I was just hair. In order to delineate these pirates, I was like, this guy's Anthony Kiedis to me.
Anthony Kiedis, punk guy. He kind of looks, he is the most Mad Max-ish, overtly Mad Max-ish guy in that.
Because he was wearing like shoulder pads, wasn't he?
Shoulder pads with like trimmed in fur.
Yeah.
So, it's very strange. So the soldier pulls a knife, starts to back away. We get some cuts between him drawing the bad guys off and the bad guys themselves. The darker pirate guy, the Anthony Kiedis guy, is followed by this buff-ass dude with a killer mullet.
Dude, he was all permed or crimped or whatever.
So the thing, like, these guys are, like, there's apparently a grooming regime that's going on.
Dude, that features heavily in my notes. I'm like, they were not short of time to like get their hair right.
I don't have time to chase them. I got to crimp my hair.
I'm doing a perm right now.
Yeah, there's a woman with a crimped perm wearing what looks like a studded leather bra. And
she was buff as fuck.
And she's wearing like this brocade jacket with big shoulder pads, but it's like brocade. And
the massive dude reminded me of Brian Bosworth. Do you remember him?
Why does that name sound familiar?
He was like an NFL, like a high NFL draft pick. Then he tried to do action movies also. He did a movie called Stone Cold. It was, I think, shitty, but he looked exactly like this dude. So much that I thought it might have been him. Then I looked it up and it was not. It was some rando, some Greek, some European dude. A lot of European guys in this movie.
Yeah, a lot of people that you can tell are like barely, like they're slipping with their American accent. They sound vaguely foreign.
Yeah,
which is fine. That's great.
No, it's not an issue. It's just that dude. It's in my notes here. His name is Stefanos Miltsakakis or something.
For real Greek.
Miltsakakis. Stefanos Miltsakakis. He's in a lot of Van Damme movies.
Miltsakakis?
Yeah, I don't know.
Stefanos Miltsakakis?
Can you read that?
I'm not trying to read. Where is it? Oh, Stefanos Miltsakakis.
Hey.
It sounds like Miltsakakis.
But he was in 4 or 5 or 6 Van Damme flicks.
So he's like okay,
he must have been his
Ole Olsen.
Yeah, something like that. I'm like, okay. I mean, he had a look.
Yeah.
He's a big shredded, roided up dude, like that pro wrestling aesthetic.
Obviously roided up. So, yeah, while this is happening, we get a shot of Pearl getting the fuck out. I got to say, it's an effective use of slow-mo to ratchet up tension, but also to eat up precious seconds to add to the runtime.
Dude. There's a lot of this movie that's slow motion. There's a lot of just staring at each other without talking.
Oh, we're so much staring. So suddenly someone comes busting out of a storefront behind Soldier Guy, and it appears to be a woman in an animal print fur-trimmed cape who kicks the knife out of his hands, then backhand punches him.
Yeah, she beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
They all did.
Yeah. Next, the first pirate, Anthony Kiedis pirate with the staff, walks up and has a turn beating up the guy. Then the pirates all seem to have at least this guy seems to have a cursory knowledge of the martial arts.
Oh, dude. Props also to this movie, I will say, for giving out, like, plenty of big female roles.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more big female roles than there are male roles in the movie.
That's a good point.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so then Crimped Perm walks up and just levels the Soldier Guy. While he's down, we cut to a very cool shot of the whole posse of bad guys rolling up with fire blazing behind them. They're led by Fender Tremolo, who we mentioned before, who's wearing the costume Vernon Wells wishes he'd been wearing in Commando.
Dude. Apparently that was the chainmail that Blade wore in Masters of the Universe.
That's amazing. Blade, who was not a He-Man character.
But yeah, the movie, dude, is like 25% people walking in slow motion.
Yeah. So this dude Fender has got fucking chainmail and steel greaves on and these big, dark, dirty sunglasses. And he also appears to be wearing some like Elizabethan era jacket.
The one with the fur lined, like
it's like it's got big puffy sleeves. It looks like if he wasn't wearing the chainmail, you'd think that he was like in Madrigal Singers or something. Like he's about to sing some Tudor hymns or something. Some Purcell songs. But anyway, I paused so I could see what looks like he's got like a Gatling gun or some shit. I can't. Later on, it's not a Gatling gun, but it's like a several barrel rifle.
Yeah, it's like a 6-barreled rifle.
Yeah. Where the slinger, Van Damme, only has, Gibson has 4.
Yeah.
So he's a very severe-looking human being, Fender Tremolo.
Absolutely,
like one of the most distinctive-looking personages I've ever seen just in anything.
The only dude who could have like also probably crushed this is Brian Thompson, the guy who was the Night Slasher in Cobra.
Good call,
had a very similar look where you're just like, he doesn't look like anyone I've ever seen before.
No, such a very distinct. It's like the facial structure, the fact that he's as ripped up as he is. It's just there's a lot going on. So Fender steps on the soldier's arm and then orders his gun to get her. Get her. The soldier begs Fender to let her go to Atlanta because she carries the cure for the plague. Fender says he wants to own the cure. Then I'd be a god.
I want to own it. He did have like a surfer voice.
Yeah, he's like he can't not speak like a surfer. So, but the misery could be stopped. I love the misery. This world could be changed. I like this world. Go to hell. Been there.
He sounds like Keanu. He sounds like John Wick, actually.
Been there, bro.
Yeah.
Dog.
He's just being difficult at this point. Like he's just being like a petulant child.
Yeah, totally.
I like the misery. Maybe I like it.
Yeah. So what? So he pulls out a big ass knife that looks like something you'd buy at a gun show or a very specific type of like Army Navy surplus store, or like some place where you'd buy some
really
crystals or a
yeah.
katana sword.
Yeah.
So it's either very rusty or crusted with blood. I'm gonna go probably just dirty and crusted with blood. But he kneels down, holds the knife to the soldier's throat, takes off his sunglasses so he can show him his crazy-ass blue eyes, which are clearly contact lenses, but, man, they're effective.
That's a cool look, man.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones had the same shit going in Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Like, just looked like an otherworldly, like, species of being.
Yeah, we guess he wanted a closer look of his carnage because then he just, like, cuts the dude's throat, and we don't see it, but we get those, like, slicey, rippy, squelchy sound effects.
Yeah, it was the first instance of, like, cutting around the violence, I think, where you're like, I feel like it's weird not to dwell on it.
Yeah.
But
in
still.
this day and age, they'd show that shit.
Even in the 80s, I feel like, oh, no, that was like, yeah, we live for this shit.
Yeah. So this seems to unsettle one of the pirates, Haley, because she kind of looks away. A bespectacled Fender stands and holds out the knife. One of his goons offers his sleeve so that Fender can wipe it off.
That's a shitty arrangement for that guy.
Give me your sleeve.
I'm the bloody sleeve guy.
I'm the blood towel. So once he sheathes the knife, another goon walks up behind and drapes a fur-trimmed leather overcoat over Fender's shoulders.
That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah, that's like a wild look.
Yeah, it's not cold out here, probably.
No, it's Arizona.
Yeah, so
standing in for the Bronx.
Yeah, New York. So then we fade to flames and more shitty-looking credits. Jean-Claude gets his name ahead of the title of the film.
How does that happen? He must have had a killer agent.
He edited it.
Oh, good point. He made those.
He said
title design by Jean-Claude Van Damme.
If I'm saving this movie for you, my name goes before the title. The credits go on for some time with Bassinson's weird score underneath.
Why was the title of this movie even Cyborg, though? Like, that's such a non-important aspect of the entire movie.
100% don't understand.
I feel like they just said cyborgs are hot. People like cyborgs now.
In watching it, I was disappointed that I didn't remember that he wasn't a cyborg. And it's like, there need to be more.
How is he not the cyborg?
I always thought that Fender was a cyborg. But then rewatching
it, I was like, he's not a human.
He should be the cyborg.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we didn't write order.
He could have been could have been cyborgs that toppled society or something.
Yeah, we have one good cyborg, one bad cyborg. Anyway, so the action picks back up with Pearl leaning against a wall to take a break from running. The pirates find her instantly, and she sets off again. We get a shot of a pirate running out of the shadows in pursuit, but he gets laid out by a mysterious high kick.
Who could it be?
Out of nowhere.
So already the patented Jean-Claude Van Damme shit.
Yeah, I know. The next shot is Pearl running down a dark, narrow alley with 2 pirates behind her. Cut back to the high kick, and we get our first glimpse of JCVD as Gibson Rickenbacker.
Why does he always hold his poses like that after a thing? That's like his thing.
Another thing, it's just like he's standing over the dude he knocked out and like menacing him a little.
Yeah.
His attention is drawn through some bit of shitty editing toward the alley.
He could never have seen down that alley unless he was right in the line of sight.
Which
that
he
alley
wasn't.
was so narrow. Yeah, it's just dumb.
A shitty trick of editing. He somehow knows that something's happening. We see Pearl has reached a dead end. She tries to climb but falls down. Meanwhile, a goon is in hot pursuit. We cut back to Gibson, who's still just staring in the direction of the alley, not moving. Cut back to Pearl, who's still on the ground and about to be set upon by pirates. Gibson finally moves in the direction of the alley. A goon twirling a knife walks slowly toward Pearl while another guy with a knife waits at the entrance to this very short, very narrow alley. I love like knife twirling sound effects. Like I can remember doing Ninja Turtle like action figures, and that's like the predominant noise that would be coming from.
Oh, like, you made the noises?
While they're fighting and shit. Anyway, as the twirly knife guy bends down toward Pearl, we get a shot of, I guess, the other pirate's boots, and then we see another set of feet step in behind him in the frame. And Gibson has sneaked up on that guy and cuts his throat with his own knife, like grabs the dude's knife and cuts his own throat. And as quiet as Gibson was being, the murder got the attention of the twirly knife guy, who starts to slowly back out the alley to see like what's going on. So as he lunges forward, Gibson grabs his arm, stabs him with his own knife, and then throws him on the ground. Pearl thanks Gibson, who turns to abandon her without a word.
Yeah, they were doing all they could to just keep him from talking any more than necessary.
It's nuts. Like, he talked so much, like in Bloodsport.
He was fine in Bloodsport, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He did just fine. He acquitted himself well.
And maybe it's just because this thing was shot in less than a month, and maybe with other stuff he had time to like get familiar with how the English felt.
Maybe, yeah, maybe he needed to be working with a dialogue coach, and they didn't have that.
Yeah,
that type of thing.
So she calls out to him for wait and grabs his hand to this weird little musical clue and asks who he is. Like, that fucking matters. He gives her the stare down, and we get another shot of her holding his hand. So there's like something weird connection. Like, and she asks, "Why you help me?" And then we get a close up of her eye, and we see all these like numbers and code and stuff flash in her eye. So the next shot is a POV looking at Gibson as if out of RoboCop vision.
Yes.
And it zooms in on him, and he answers, "I thought he was somebody else."
What does that mean?
And
he thought she was someone else, or he thought the attackers were someone else?
He's saying, "I thought you were someone else." Because
I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah, I thought he was somebody else. This and the static noise effect clues us in that at least that she is a cyborg.
Yeah.
Whatever scan she's done.
Why does he's being weird, like straight from the jump, though?
Yeah.
Like I thought it was somebody else.
I don't know.
Okay. All right,
and
whatever the fuck that means.
The only thing that I can think of, and we talked about this a little bit before, is that this character,
she Mary.
Looks like Mary, and I think that if they had played more on that connection, it would make more sense, and maybe they did in another cut of the movie.
Yeah.
But they do look remarkably similar, the two actresses.
I thought it was either that or he thought this was Fender attacking her. But yeah, anyway.
That's a good point, too.
But who knows? We don't need to dwell.
Yeah.
We can't dwell on it because nobody knows.
It doesn't make sense. So whatever scan she's done seems to satisfy her that he's trustworthy, because she's like, "I can trust you."
That shit was weird, dude. It was like something computed in her head.
Yeah.
And it was that information was delivered to her.
Yeah.
You can trust this man.
I can trust you. It's like she ran the numbers. And based on the information available, you're trustworthy.
And dude, those graphics and shit were like 10 times shittier than what they had in RoboCop or Terminator, movies that came earlier than this.
Yes. He pulls his hand away and asks, "For what?" She says she needs him to get her back to Atlanta. She explains that the last doctors, Kevin.
Yeah.
The federal people are holed up at the CDC or some damn place, I guess, and that they've been working on a cure for the plague, but they need the information that she has. He continues to stare at her, not giving off any kind of vibe or emotion. Like his facial expression doesn't change.
Zero emoting.
And Van Damme, like Schwarzenegger, can give good face.
That's what was he getting weird? Was he getting weird direction?
Yeah, I think
like just be as deadpan as possible.
I wonder if Pyun, and this is not out of the realm of possibility, was like, you need to be traumatized. Do you know what trauma is? And like told him you need to be like almost comatose. You're so just like in the zone for what you're just out for revenge at this point, like looking for Fender or whatever, that nothing else like is just tunnel vision. Like he can't even relate to another human being because he's so traumatized. It's the only thing, but that's giving everyone a lot of credit.
I have another theory I'll throw out there that just came to me. It could be bourbon talking. What if Pyun had some weird idea that later on in the movie it'll be like revealed that Van Damme also was a cyborg or something. That's why he doesn't have emotions.
Yeah, it should have
or something, because he does very little of what resembles acting in this movie, period.
And we've seen him act.
Yeah, he can
put
forth an effort, and he's not putting forth an effort in this movie.
He's so, in like Kickboxer and Bloodsport, he's like goofy and lovable. In this movie, it's dark.
And giving us a lot of, I don't know, we don't get anything from him. He's just a boring
we get
dude.
Some of those towards
a little bit
in places, but most of the time he's just like running weird,
morose,
and not really doing much martial arting either.
He's grieving still.
Yeah. So she swears she's telling him the truth. Just then we cut to one of the pirates from the earlier posse coming, I guess, from farther back in the alley. He seems to spot them and ducks to hide and watch. Cut back to Pearl, and it looks like hours have passed or they're in a different place because it's like so much darker.
I think
she doesn't even look like the same person.
No, it had to be because this was going to be an effects shot, and maybe it was probably against a blue screen or something.
Maybe.
But it looked terrible.
Yeah.
It was like it looked like a different person. I think when I was watching it for the first time, I got so confused. So
yeah.
I was like, here's this. There's a new character now.
It's like her hair and makeup have completely changed. It's the same actress, but she just looks so different.
It went from being outdoors, I think, to being on a sound stage against a green screen somewhere.
So Pearl, in a complete non sequitur, says, "I'm a cyborg." Wait, what? So Gibson continues to stare blankly at her. Yeah. I'm not sure that this hasn't been just one. It's the same shot of Van Damme
that happens a few times
over
in this
and
movie
over to make it look like he's participating in the conversation.
Absolutely, dude.
Anyway, he still says nothing. So she turns around and pulls off a wig, which is also part of a screen wipe, because once the wig gets whipped, we're left looking at a visual effects humanoid head that's business in the front, computer in the back. It's pretty cool looking from that angle, considering
from the back it was cool.
It blinks, and you've got the little whirring and tubes and fluid and stuff running down the neck. We cut back to Gibson, who reacts not at all.
No. Yeah, okay.
All right, I've seen this. No, I've seen one of these. She says she was created to retrieve data from a computer system in New York City. Cut to some cool stop motion again of the head and the inner machine workings moving around inside. There's a cut back to the pirate watching them, and we see him cock his weapon, which finally caused Gibson to like react to something.
What's that?
The dude gets a shot off, but Gibson shoves Pearl down, tells her to stay down, and then turns and runs down the alley. The pirate gets another shot off, which appears to tag Gibson and blasts him through like whatever wooden barrier was closing off the back. Either that or he just jumped through it.
I think he just dove through it, I think.
I couldn't tell because it looked like it caught him and he just like got flung backward.
I got to ask, and maybe this inserts back earlier in, but
yeah,
is her being a cyborg somehow easier than them carrying a disc? Like having an arm, like a platoon of soldiers with a disc? No, one of them needs to be a cyborg, and that's
very interesting, man. Maybe they don't have the equipment to write a disc.
In the 80s, I don't think they had the concept of a disc could hold this much information.
Right.
But this is meant to be the future. It was just like, because that's her whole purpose of being a cyborg, right? Is because she can hold some vast amount of data that they need.
The size of a human body, more storage.
Yes.
I don't know.
The hard drive.
That's a good point.
That I just thought of that when I was like, why? But why does she even need to be?
Yeah, why does she need to be a cyborg?
Walking thumb drive.
Well, we'll bring this up in the closing episode, but I have a theory about that.
Oh, okay.
I do have a theory about
I'm here for it.
So, yeah.
That's a teaser.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can share it with you
No,
now.
no, don't do it.
Okay.
Now they're roped in for a month of listening.
Yeah, if you guys want to know my theory, you got to come back for the last episode. So anyway, Gibson gets blasted through whatever this thing is, or he jumps through of his own volition. Anyway, when he does it, all this stuff falling down.
The plaster was falling down.
So all this stuff falls on him for some reason. There's some cuts between the pirate and the dusty doorway, but there's no stirring from Gibson. The fake robot Pearl head whips around and sees that Fender and his entire posse have arrived and are blocking the head of the alley. And, man, that just doesn't even look like her in the face.
That, I think, again, was where I got confused. I'm like, well, now what the fuck is this thing? Because it's not.
What the fuck is this shit?
It's not. It looks nothing like the actress Dale Haddon.
It looks reasonably like a human face, but it is not a close likeness of the actor.
So strange, dude.
It's like, I mean, again, they probably had a week to put this together, and they were like,
oh, yeah.
And they were probably like, the shit's not dry. We got to get it out there.
It's all paper mache.
We got to get it out there. It's the best we could do with Play-Doh. So after a moment of standing there posing, Fender finally starts walking toward Pearl. He says, that Slinger can't help Pearl now, but that he will take her to Atlanta.
Okay.
He says that they'll give him the cure, and if they don't, they'll get the horror show, which is not good writing.
No, it's terrible.
As he says it, he lifts up the soldier guy's head because that guy is dead.
That was Marshall Stratt.
Yeah, Marshall Stratt.
Yeah.
The fake head tries to register.
The fake head looked more like actor than the Pearl puppet.
So Pearl's cyborg head tries to register some emotion with relative success. It cycles from
more
like surprise.
So than Van Damme.
Yeah, it definitely exhibited more emotional range than Van Damme has so far. So it cycles from like surprised to resigned to its fate.
Also, there was just no reason that shot even needed to be a puppet. Like, they could put a bald cap and shit on the real actress.
I was like, why not just shoot her face and put a skull cap on her?
You could. This has been done before.
Yeah, and it would take almost no makeup.
No, it's got to be cheaper than building that puppet.
Oh my! Everyone was on cocaine. Everyone was cocaine. I can build this. I can build this.
I can fix it.
My dad has an ultimate set of tools. Anyway, cut to hours later. It's nighttime. We get a close up of a full moon, and we hear a wolf howling.
Yeah, you know. New York and New Jersey, they're famous for those wolves.
Maybe they got loose from the zoo. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. It's like in 12 Monkeys, where the animals have gotten loose.
Yes.
So, yeah, why the wolf effect? Just because there's a moon.
Absolutely.
And Van Damme said, we'll do a wolf here. So then we cut to some rubble, out of which bursts Gibson's fist, complete with a Van Damme.
It was bright ass.
Yeah.
It was a bright ass night down in that alley, man.
Gibson emerges, staggers to his feet, and slowly walks back toward the burning city. He hears
how are they even fires burning?
I don't know
anymore. Everything should have been burned up that could possibly burn years ago.
Yeah, unless Fender and them I don't know. There's no fuel in those cars. I don't know.
There's no. You and I both know. There's no film in this camera.
So he hears Pearl's voice in his head saying the thing about her needing him to get her to Atlanta, where the doctors are working on a cure.
She said that literally 2 minutes ago of screen time.
You remember? It's a double elimination tournament.
They think we'd already forgot. Yes. Repeat. It's a double elimination.
That means 2 falls. So he seems to make up his mind to follow after her, and there's a cut from him to some flames and an unknown woman screaming in pain.
Which I thought was a flashback.
I did too, but it turns out that is a flash forward to where Fender and his gang are, and they've raided a village.
There's some gory ass shit going on there. I mean, like bodies chopped to pieces.
They're burning
and stuff.
shit down, cutting heads off, disemboweling people,
yeah,
I guess for food.
There was like a pile of arms and legs and stuff.
Yeah. Interesting shot of all the old photos, books, and a wedding cake topper burning.
For some reason.
I guess it was like an allusion to the fact that there's no more normal world.
I was like, also, what do we got left in that prop closet?
The old world is gone.
What can we burn?
There's one last dude with a knife who's trying to be honorable and protect some women. Fender asked that guy, I guess, if he thinks that Fender, is going to swim all the way to Atlanta. The guy lunges for him, and again, all VO. We don't see his mouth moving. This is stuff they got put in later. The guy lunges for him with a knife, but Fender catches his arm, breaks it across his knee, then smacks the dude around and calls him an asshole.
You think I'm going to swim to Atlanta, asshole? I can't swim. I hate the water.
Which I really wanted that. Like, that should have come up, like, later in the movie when he was, like, in water. Like, he should have...
It's so weird.
He should have tried to drown him later on. It should have been the climax of the movie should have been him, like, thrashing around. I can't swim.
Like Little John.
Yes,
and
exactly. Robin and Prince of Thieves.
Thieves.
I can't bloody swim.
He's telling on himself, though, right now.
Yeah.
It's like, no one... You don't have to,
I wish that
volunteer that information.
I wish that line had paid off, because why even add it?
I know. It's not the last time that Fender's like deep insecurities are going to come to the surface either. It's
He
just
is broken.
It's such a weird thing to just
He's
say.
a broken human being. So yeah, he
He
grabs.
was also, dude, he walked around with like a head on a stick that they cut around. They were cutting around it as well. And I'm just like, they were going out of their way not to show some stuff here.
Yeah. And there was plenty to show. And apparently this scene in its full and uncut version was one of the big reasons why the film got an X rating originally. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, Fender grabs one of the women that the guy was protecting, lets out this crazy inhuman scream and cuts her throat while the guy watches.
Off screen again. Yeah. And then...
Yeah, then he takes some kind of pole and I guess impales that dude through the head.
You couldn't tell what was happening, but it seemed like they were going to like ram it down the dude's mouth or something.
And like, out the back of his throat. We don't see that though because we cut to an extreme close-up of the wedding cake topper melting, and that shot is like a full 10, 12 seconds.
It was just an odd choice, an odd editing choice, odd production design choice.
Next, we see the bad guys on a dock where some type of vessel is moored. Severed heads and decapitated bodies are hanging everywhere. Pearl is also there waiting for the pirates to load up. We hear Fender VO that doesn't match up with anything saying, "Hoist anchor, mates! We got a skin job to take to Atlanta!"
I feel like he was trying to do a British accent, but it wasn't. And skin job, just direct ripoff from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, dude, this is like, one of the film's would-be influences, but that's plagiarism.
That's plagiarism. Yes. That's from Philip K. Dick. Plagiarism.
We call them Blade Runner. Just what the fuck? Wait, what?
We're going to run a test on you. Wait, what? So, cut to the boat cruising through the water at night. Then we go back to the destroyed village. We see Gibson's arrived and is surveying the carnage while he's transfixed. Oh,
dude, there were long
fire.
cutaways of the buildings burning in broad daylight.
Yeah. Yeah, no one knows.
It was an editing choice, man. That's why I usually don't call out the editors, but these editors needed to be called out because there's just so much shit.
I really do feel like
it's not the editor's fault. I don't think. I don't think they worked with what they had
for months trying to get this for 2 months actually to get this thing put
Assemble
together
it into
in a way
something that makes sense.
Yeah, like and it still doesn't, but it's like doing the best you can with the pile of shit you've got. So anyway, yeah, Gibson's like staring at the fire, and we see a figure creeping in the shadows, and the figure seems to like lift up a weapon, but Gibson somehow senses this, which again would have been cool if he was a cyborg, but he whirls around and flings what looks and sounds like a knife at the person, and it knocks him down. He runs over with he's got a fucking sword.
Yes, he's got a katana.
A big katana. It's like a wide blade katana. And he finds a potential love interest lying unconscious on the ground.
Yeah, well, that we think it was a knife. It just was fortunate that it hit her with the handle.
I guess.
Or is he that
because
good?
It just looked and sounded like. What else would he throw at somebody? How would he know that that's not a bad guy? Why would he only want to knock him out? This is not somebody that just knocks people out. He kills everyone.
I don't think he carries a double, like my dull weapon to fling it at unknowns.
Unless he smelled her perfume. I don't know. Anyway.
He smelled her musk.
Sometime later, we see he's taken the woman and made camp somewheres. He takes a break from staring at her to sharpen his knife, and I guess that's why he's sharpening the knife because it was too dull to stab her, and it just ended up knocking her out.
Well, all of this is not creepy.
Yeah.
Gibson. So, I'm going to just stare at you and sharpen my knife.
Thank goodness he's got that little water dropper to wet his whetstone.
Yeah.
he like follows the rules. But
now, how was the knife sharpening technique?
I've never seen anyone sharpen a knife like that.
Okay.
You want to like run the blade across, not just like slowly, like you got to put pressure on it. You got to, and like you can either go section of the blade like from end down toward hilt, one section at a time, or you can go the whole length, but you got to go the whole length of the knife down thing, and you got to put pressure on it, not like gently rub a lotioned hand across another hand. It's like
it was all sensual, wasn't it?
It's not. All of the knife sharpening in this movie is sexual. All of it. All of it is phallic.
I like just the idea that He's thinking, oh, this is going to put her at ease when she wakes up. She looks over and I'm just here sharpening my knife.
Gently sharpening my knife. So it's also worth pointing out that the unconscious girl's wearing a cross. So much religious
Oh, no, I
imagery in this
did.
movie.
It was like blatantly
hanging
framed
out.
and positioned to see. Yes.
So many crosses. So then we cut to the first of this movie's many flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a long-haired Gibson watching a woman and two younger children mourning at a grave.
That was a terrible fucking wig.
It's really bad. There's a cross, a pic of the Virgin Mary, and a Jack-in-the-Box on the grave.
Yeah, of course, you know.
The kids are approximately 8, the boy, and 12, the girl.
Yeah, do you read that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the woman, who really doesn't seem like she's much older than 18 to me, tells the kids to say goodbye to your daddy. Say goodbye to Pa so we can be on our way.
Terrible accent.
Gibson tells them to get a move on because he's losing money.
Yeah, time is money, kids.
The woman, Mary, who's wearing now like a bonnet or some weird hat, she like shoves some shit at him, and it just looks like a lot of like aluminum canned food.
Yeah. Was that payment?
I think
guess?
so. It's like a down payment.
Okay.
She says she doesn't know if she trusts him or that there's any difference between the slingers and the pirates who murdered her pa.
Pirates that murdered my pa. She got like progressively more southern as the sentence went along.
Yeah. I will say.
It was that chick, it reminded me of the chick from Teen Wolf. I don't know if you remember when they did the school play.
I do declare, like whatever she was saying.
Please don't burn my plantation.
Who says pa?
Pa.
Did people in the 80s
that murdered my pa? Yes, it was. It was like some Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit. It's supposed to be the future.
Anyway, if you can believe it, he doesn't respond to any of this. He just stares at her. She says they ain't got no choice but to trust him since he's the only one who answered their posting. Suddenly she breaks down and begs him to get them safely out of the city. He looks away and says, "It's what I do. Get people out of the city." Oh, okay. Thank God. That's exactly what I just asked you and paid you to do. So then he walks off and tells her, "Let's go." So sometime later on down the road.
But not that long.
Do we think it's the same day?
I feel like it's pretty quick for the kids to be having their heads in his lap.
And the two young children are sleeping with their heads in his lap, and he's like caressing them. Mary, who looks in this was the first, I was like, oh shit, she looks just like Pearl. Watches and thirstily says, "You're good with them." And he says, "I like them."
The sparks are flying.
I guess.
She's the creepiest
I want to make
way.
a couple of my own. So we cut again to somewhere in the group's travels. He's led Mary and the kids to a rundown farmhouse. Mm-hmm. The house is a wreck, but Mary says it's beautiful. Gibson says, inexplicably, "We'll be safe here."
Yeah, maybe
Why
not.
the fuck is he the only one carrying anything?
They didn't have much stuff.
I said, from a post-apocalyptic survival standpoint, everyone should be schlepping something, and he of all people should be able to quickly get to a weapon instead of being the beast of burden. Anyway, jump cut to the younger girl screaming in pain. We see she's holding on to a length of barbed wire that's like ripping through her hands, which is
fucking
yeah. Oof. And Mary is holding the little boy, and they seem to be wrapped in barbed wire. Then we get a close-up of Fender's crazy face, and that seems to snap him out of the flashback. Gibson. So he stops sharpening his knife, and the girl finally stirs. Gibson sheaths his knife, and then they look at each other. While he's
just a long stare down.
Yeah, while
girls like that, when you knock them out, and then they wake up later to the image of you sharpening a huge knife.
Oh yeah, a real man. So while he starts packing up his stuff, she reaches from under the blanket and surreptitiously grabs what looks like a jagged shiv-like piece of metal.
What the fuck was that even supposed to be?
I don't know. Like, it looked like a piece of rebar that had been like melted down or something.
Okay.
But she grabs it and tries to hide it under the blanket. Gibson reaches over and pulls the blanket back, but makes no effort to take the weapon from her, trying to build trust here, I guess.
Right.
And while he continues to pack his things, she asks, "Are you looking for that woman?" This makes him pause what he's doing. And she says that she overheard the pirates saying the woman has the cure for the plague and that they're headed for Atlanta. Gibson mutters, Atlanta. And walks outside. He literally just repeats the word. No intention behind it.
Atlanta.
Just says
the word.
He
is not bringing a lot to the table in this movie. Like, imagine trying to do scenes with him.
I can't. I cannot.
Atlanta.
And it sucks because he's been so charming in other things that, like, watching this is like,
He's got that in him.
I want to know, much like was Deckard a replicant?
Yeah.
Was Gibson a cyborg?
The dude Pion or Peon could have had big ideas of what, high, whatever, like lofty, heady ideas
like
of what he could do with this. It'd be a reveal in the sequel, or something like that. But that winds us down. This is a good time to mention that's Natty.
Yes, Natty.
Her name is not said once in the movie until the final moments when it's just screamed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's Natty. So we'll call her by name from now on. Is just seeing that chick that he picked up with the big hair.
So yeah, exactly. Her hair is amazing.
Yeah, a lot of volume there.
But man, yeah. So that's the beginning of this movie. We've got the foundation has been laid for a plot, such as it is. We got to get that cure.
Building.
We got to get that cure. In your very own ATL.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that part of it.
I love to see ATL getting a shout out. But hold on to your hats because this movie's about to get fucking wild, and as little sense as it's made so far, it's about to be even worse. But we'll get into that next time.
We'll be back.